shattering conventional wisdom. John Stossel.
You know, because you watch this program, that what brings a nation prosperity is economic freedom. Another way to say that is when people's inventiveness isn't crushed by a big, intrusive government, a spontaneous order emerges that leads to the invention of things like cell phones, movies, music, computers, all kinds of great stuff that you don't get when big government calls the shots. Trouble is, in America, we increasingly have big government, and it's growing bigger, so we've got to cut. But when I talk to politicians about cuts, most just stare at me like they're thinking, that clueless Stossel doesn't get my problems. I can't cut and get reelected, or I'll just cut the waste. But that's nonsense. Waste is rarely cut. It's like the fat that's marbled into steak. You can't really cut it out. The only way to really cut is to eliminate entire programs. But no politician wants to do that. Well, a few do, but until now, no senator has ever proposed significant cuts. Now one has, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Senator Paul, your plan would cut $500 billion next year. Any of your colleagues on board with that?
Well, we haven't gotten any yet, but you know what's pretty amazing about it is here in official Washington, they think $500 billion may be too dramatic, maybe too bold. But the interesting thing is even if I got my $500 billion of cuts, it would be only 1/3 of the deficit for 1 year. It's not enough. I went to a Tea Party caucus that we organized, and most of my supporters came to rally, and they said, $500 billion, that's a good start. We want more. But in official Washington, they're petrified about cutting so much from the budget.
Well, it's good to hear that the Tea Party supporters say cut more, but do you believe it? Do you believe they'll be enthusiastic when specific programs are mentioned?
Many in the media and in the polls have said, well, yeah, the Tea Party's for cutting spending, but they don't want to cut any Social Security. Well, I think ultimately that if you talk to people who will be receiving it the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, if you talk to young people, they're more than ready to acknowledge that they're going to have to get it at a later age and that it may not be there unless we do something to fix it.
But I noticed you didn't touch Social Security or Medicare.
Touche. We didn't, but we did that on purpose, really. We wanted to show that we could cut $500 billion without even getting to entitlements. But I jokingly have told people, you know, I fixed the budgetary problems this week. Next week, we're going to fix the entitlements, and we are going to. We're going to be introducing a reform that will shore up Social Security for the next 75 years within a week or two.
All right, well, looking at your cuts, you want to cut 83% of the education department. Why not all of it? Ronald Reagan used to say, just, you know, we don't need this department. We didn't used to have a federal department.
Well, we essentially do. We cut 83%. The remaining 17% we put into another department. So we do cut the entire Department of Education.
Okay.
And so we do eliminate it. And that is a promise that I made in the campaign. And it's an old Ronald Reagan promise. And it used to be in the Republican platform until this last 10 years when Republicans took charge. They doubled the size of the Department of Education. But that's not a difficult sale. When I tell voters in Kentucky that I think the state and the localities should take care of schools, I don't get much pushback at all.
You would cut 43% out of the Department of Homeland Security. That's $23 billion. That's real money, even in Washington. But we're going to die. People want to kill us. I'm told they keep the homeland secure.
Well, I think the mistake after 9/11 was, and it's a mistake we always make in Washington, is something terrible did happen, and so we have to say, what can we do, or what did we not do to allow this calamity? But the interesting thing is, we did a lot of things wrong, but nobody was ever fired after 9/11. We added a lot of new rules and new government regulations, but no one was ever fired. I don't know that tripling and quadrupling the budget really did anything for our safety.
HUD, you would get rid of all of HUD, Housing and Urban Development. People will say, we won't have housing.
Well, one of the things HUD did during the last 10 years or so is they promoted things called subprime loans. These are loans where people have as little as 3% down payment. Well, it worked, but it was a house of cards. A lot of people got houses during the Bush administration because of HUD. but now they're all bankrupt and the banks own all these houses, and it's a catastrophe, and we have 8 million homes in receivership. So I don't think that really HUD has been doing a good job. HUD also has been in charge with building government housing that leads to permanent areas of poverty and isn't helping people up. It's helping to sort of cement and secure this level of poverty that really isn't helping.
Well, I congratulate you for proposing this. I wish you had proposed to cut more, but I understand the world in which you live.
We're just getting started, John. We're just getting started.
Well, thank you, Senator Rand Paul. Next, Sputnik. The Soviets shot it into space, and decades later, President Obama thinks it's an example of how